shallow area that they like to get on when it's sunny. So it was going to be sunny. It was a totally different spot.
He fucked us over, Dean. Basically, what Harry
did.
How? What Harry did was we had basically 4 spots we could do it, 4 swims. It's across why he's so bad at rainbow fishing. No, I've got to come and defend myself. Sean's making it look easy. There's loads of reasons why he's got the hormones. He's got
A big warm welcome back to the All-Ways Carp Fishing Podcast. What an episode we have for you guys. Our latest underwater film is now out on YouTube, and the guys look back at what went right, what went wrong, who's to blame, and the rigs go under the microscope. Join Harry, Lewis, Scott, Mozza and myself, Dean Watson, as we run through our underwater findings. Grab a brew and enjoy.
If they can see a tiny micropellet through the water, I'm pretty sure they can see 0.50 diameter.
Can they see it, or do they sense it and know it's there? They
see it.
I'm pretty sure they can see it.
Well, they can see it at some point. Does it get to a point where they then can't see it?
Maybe when it's literally right on the tip of their nose.
Also, it depends on how clear it is.
We got one playing football with your rig doing hardly under its nose.
But you can put tiny little floaters into a pond, and they'll literally go Pac-Man into floaters, so they can see them. But they
also miss them.
But they generally miss them when they get really close to them.
So what happens when they get real close?
But your point is they won't see line on the bottom, but they will.
Yeah.
They will see
and
it.
on them sandy spots, it is so blatant. I need to do
right.
something.
Anyway, I thought we were stopping discussing it.
Well, you just said you wanted us to.
Oh, we're talking about rainbow.
You're talking about rainbow.
We were talking about rainbow, and you two decided to join in.
I would just use.
Mozza's travelled all the way here.
I don't think. I think you just need to listen to Sean.
Yeah, he's travelled all the way here to try and put his side of things across why he's so bad at rainbow fishing.
No,
I've got to come and defend myself. Sean's making it look easy. There's loads of reasons why he's got the hormones. He's got
Guys, before we get into today's pod, I just want to, obviously we're talking about rainbow. I think we just got to give a tip of the cap to McSPOD, who's out there at the moment, absolutely living the dream and smacking up. I'm touching on this as well because our last podcast was all about watercraft, and he was here talking about what he does and how he does it, and he's literally playing it out as he says he does out there. From you're probably best.
Give a bit of detail.
Well,
Dean.
I was just going to say that
a lot of people, firstly, won't know who McSPOD is. So that's Sean McSpadden. McSPOD's his nickname, and then he's at Rainbow Lake in the south of France.
He certainly
and what's
is.
he caught, Dean, so far?
He's been doing very, very well. I was going to ask because Mozza's here. He's probably best suited to tell us how good a session he's having.
Well, mate, it's not easy anymore.
Cool.
No,
you're going to say that.
No, but it's not. It isn't. Most people that go to Rainbow on the regular know that it's not easy. And trips that he's having at the minute. I spoke to Sean yesterday, and you don't hear of trips like that anymore.
He said to me last night when I spoke to him, he went, "It's like a trip. It's like an old trip, like it used to be." We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and he said it ain't the same anymore. No. You don't go and catch 60 fish in 2 weeks. You know, he's had 39 in a week and a half between him and Phil.
And what's the tally of big fish so far?
They've had 5 60s, and that includes a 68 and a 69.
He's had 2 70s.
He's had a 71 and a 73. Yeah,
and that 73, that Mr. Fred is off the chain.
Fish,
what a carp!
But but basically, he's having a trip like we used to have years ago. But Moz is right. You don't get those trips anymore. You don't get the volume of fish getting caught like they used to catch 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
I remember speaking to you after your last trip and saying, like, is it finished? Like it's
how
like
many
you haven't had a good trip for
39.
A while now.
Four or five trips.
My trips have been far better than everyone else around us. Like there's an English guy that fishes with Dirk in 12, and he's done 4 trips now, 2-week trips, not had a carp.
How many did you have between you and Paul? I know it was a struggle.
I had 11 bites, I lost 4 just at Paul's, and Paul only had 3.
So it must be
the guys that
outfish Paul, jeez.
Yeah, I know, there's that, yeah. So it was tough to outfish Paul.
He must have really got the shit side of the swim.
He chooses, it's his trips.
But the guys that followed you in blanked, and the guys in there now are still blanking.
Yeah.
So they're
and
the
Romanians
week and a half
in before us, they were there for 2 weeks and they only had 1 fish.
Yeah. So you to have 15, 16 bites, whatever between you, to have that between you did really well.
Yeah.
Well done, Moz.
Thank you.
Yeah, by Sean's standards, not very well, but yeah, by your standards.
And with Sean, because he's on the island at the minute, he's like, I'm not making excuses as such, because you still got to fish it well. But he's got 19 free in front of him and 21 free behind him, so there's a lot of water there. So he's got 3 pegs that, have got no one in, sort of thing. But you still got to fish them well.
You still got to maximise your opportunities, and that's what he's doing.
And you get enough water in that island, you could fish 1 million rods as it is. So for him to hone it down and do as well as he's doing, fair play to him.
There's only like 2 to 3 spots that are catching.
Yeah.
And the left-hand side of the island going through towards 11 and that has been shit.
Yeah.
It's the right-hand side that's been...
All these trips where people seem to be doing well as well is 9 times out of 10 it's on 1 rod.
Yeah.
And you take that rod out of the equation, you'd be struggling. And
years ago, like I look back at some of the lists when we went off the island, and we might have like 50, 60 fish between us in 2 weeks, and all rods are producing.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's just literally like 2 or 3 spots.
We've had trips before. Like we had a trip in 21, we had over 100 fish, but every rod was going. It was ridiculous.
In the old days.
Them trips, it's not like that anymore. But I almost enjoy it now more because I love the chase.
It's more of a
I love
challenge
having
now.
to work things out. And the things that I'm seeing, especially on this last trip that I've just had, it just blows me head off, really, to be honest. Learned a lot this last trip. Learnt loads.
Great, we'll do a special podcast about rainbow at some time in the future.
We will.
Can we talk about something else now?
We will.
The last one was all about rainbows.
Well, we just want to say sort of a big ups to Sean, who is living the dream out there. Fair play
Sean
to you,
and
mate.
Phil, they've had,
They're doing it well.
560s, 270s. Ain't too shabby, is it?
Incredible.
Yeah, and still
4
a few
fish
days to
over
go.
30 kilos.
And a little mention for Mark Pitchers as well, who's currently out in Bulgaria fishing, and he's had 2 60-pound commons this week as well.
Yeah, 64 and a 61. In front of underwater cameras.
Oh, right.
So well done, Mr. Pitchers.
Which leads
Got
nicely
a
on.
couple of
It
voice
does.
messages from him. Maybe he's had a 70 or an 80 pounder now. I don't know.
But play them.
No, because they're on a...
Do not pay that is Russian roulette we don't want to be playing.
That'll be fine.
There we go. Is that better, Dill?
Yeah, speaking, guys, of obviously Mark doing the underwater cameras, we've got a new film out, which has just gone out this last couple of days. In the making, what would you call it, nearly 18 months in the making, nearly, this one?
Well,
we
haven't spent a whole 18 months on it.
But no, just
we started, 18 months ago.
So we started in the back end of October into November of 24. Obviously, cameras in the water, and we were met with insane pressure to start with. Like I've never seen it that high.
Yeah, it was like 1,040s.
We said at the beginning of that, we got some high pressure to contend with this week. Oh yeah. We had that pressure, all right.
It was literally 1,040s.
But it wasn't just that week. It had been high pressure for weeks before, and it continued for a fair bit of time afterwards as well. I think we had a 5-week period of it literally being flat, high pressure. People will remember that part of 2024 autumn was one of the worst.
It was the grey stint on it.
Yeah.
We just saw grey skies for weeks.
It had all the conspiracy theorists saying that
that
they'd cloud seeded and planted it in, depriving us of our vitamin D and all that to kill us off. But we survived.
We're still here.
But it just
it's blue skies today.
It is. Yeah, we're all here rocking. But it just proved to me watching the film, like the spots, and like you guys were using the casters, the maggots, the worms, essentially some of the best carp pulling baits out there you can use, and they just were not interested. The odd one might have dropped down and had a look, but that was, you were getting no sort of traffic on the spot smashing it up, were you?
There was plenty of traffic.
going
You'd
past.
see fish, but like, you associate naturals with
Feeding
proper
frenzies.
proper pulling power, and we've seen it on the underwater we did at Chillcott. Like literally, you put a bit more naturals in, and they just came in and smashed it. And that was the first week, or maybe the second week in the winter. They allow you to use natural baits. In the summer they don't. So like it was right at the start of that, which is always when venues have those rules, always the best time to be on them. If you're the first one on those naturals, it's the best time to be on them. But it really sort of showed that if the conditions are not right, even if you're on fish, sometimes there's if you've got rules that mean that you can't do things like zigs and stuff like that, you're really, really struggling.
I even think if we'd have used zigs that week, we'd have struggled.
Yeah.
I know they were up and swimming around, but they just didn't
Weren't
look like they
interested,
wanted
were
to
they?
eat anything at all.
Yeah. No, it was a painful shoot, but that's the nature of the beast of doing underwater, isn't it? You know?
I do actually. I mean, I do think. I think potentially you're limited, right, with underwater, with these films. You've only got so many cameras. You can only fish so many spots. Yeah. I think there would have been spots that we didn't fish that we maybe should have tried that we would have been able to get bites on.
Maybe that might have been a little bit better than what it was, but it would have still been shit. Because the whole period was poor.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the other thing is we when we do these, I don't know if we alluded to it in the edit or in the film, we didn't put the cameras in a week or 2 weeks before. We didn't prep a spot. We literally rocked up, dropped the cameras in, started fishing the next day, even to the point where then Harry moved a rod and a camera into another bit of the swim. Was it the following day or even the first night?
Yeah. You fast forwarded to April.
I was going to say.
Sorry.
I was going to.
No, to be fair to Scott, let's fast forward to April.
There's way more to talk about.
The less said about the November trip, the better.
But the point was, we don't go, we don't prep, we don't put the camera in, we don't leave it, we don't bait a spot and everything. We just literally put the camera in on a spot and film what's going on there. Yeah. So it isn't. It's a tough gig to start with, regardless of conditions.
Just touching back on one thing I think definitely went against us on the first one.
Everything?
Was that we booked and paid for the whole of the lake.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then put all of the angling pressure in one part of it. And on a busy day ticket lake, which is normally full every day of the week, to all of a sudden make 90% or 80% of it line free, the fish definitely moved into areas and backed off.
Yeah.
And we said this before, and we know that, but we still did it. It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, so we made that definitely made, like, when you're talking about tiny percentages, the weather was against us, it was against us. Allowing them so much water with no angling pressure also went against us and made it even harder. So we learned from that mistake when we went back in April.
Yeah, I mean, it was to the point where, you know, it was so bad in front of the cameras that pictures went round the other side and made a totally different film and caught some fish. Admittedly, all of those fish were caught during the hours of darkness.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have got them on the underwater cameras anyway. But we had pushed those fish across and it was like, oh, there's loads of fish over there. Mark, why don't you go and make a film around there?
And he caught a few, but it wasn't easy, was it?
No, but he was using quite a lot of maggot and catcher. We were struggling to get him to make one mouthful where we were, yet he was putting like several spoms of maggots out.
Hoppers,
spoms, whatever.
Get that in.
But we pushed the fish over there.
And he got bites because I think what happened was our pressure moved a lot of fish and they then congregated together, so there was enough competition there to get a few chances even in those terrible conditions. But like you say, at night, because we're on that cusp of going into that period of the year where bites do swap from day to night. Yeah, that is another thing to bear in mind when you're doing an underwater film, I think, is
don't do it in October, November.
Yeah, don't do it when or on a lake or at a time of year where bites are normally in the dark rather than in
we are writing a book at the moment. It's called the 2026 Guide to 107 Excuses.
Underwater excuses.
Poor performances.
Well, let's fast forward, like I say to Lou said, into April, into the spring.
Oh, no, let's have some more excuses why it was shit.
Let's get on to it. But the first thing I noticed you did was you invited our sponsored anglers to come and join you this time at the venue to fill those voids
for exactly that reason.
We just said, look, we booked the whole lake again, apart from 2 swims. There was already 2 guys booked on in 2 swims that had it booked for a year, so they were in those 2 swims down the bottom end of the arm. We booked all the other swims, and this time we said, right, what we'll do is we'll split the cameras up into 2 or 3 different parts of the lake, and we'll as anglers we'll split up. And then in the other swims, we'll put our sponsored anglers or staff members in them swims, and they can just have a week's fishing that we've paid for, and just enjoy a social. It's good for us to spend a bit of time with them. They can see a little bit of what goes into making an underwater film, And hopefully them fishing will not give the carp any safe areas.
Yeah.
And that worked to a degree. I mean, I think Mike ended up catching more fish than... Well, he certainly caught more fish than I did.
They didn't have that many, though, did they?
I think he had three or four.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So they fished consistently at night with 3 rods each. So
without cameras,
without cameras,
across
and caught 3 or 4
spots or whatever. Yeah.
We had 5 between us.
4 between us.
Yeah, we had 4 between the 2 of us with 1 rod, fishing days only. So when we've written the book about excuses, we're now writing the book of, aren't we great? Look, we had 4.
I mean, we did have best pick of the swims.
I was going to say, I was going to touch on that. You all did different things. Like Harry went to open water, Lewis was fishing down the margin, Scott was up against an island. You touched on as well just the tactical side of things, getting ahead of the weather, knowing that you had warm weather coming in and hitting that sort of 3 to 4 foot spots. Was that your sort of thinking going into it? Did you sort of think before you got there and have a look?
We knew it was going to get. We knew the weather was good. We knew it was getting sunny. We knew it was going to get warm. So we were looking for spots in the swims where there were shallow bits or features where we knew the fish were going to start, taking advantage of the sun. We didn't know it was going to get quite so warm. We didn't think the water was going to warm up quite as quickly as it did.
Can we just, before we really get into the nuts and bolts of this, just say if you haven't watched it yet, probably watch it now before you listen to the rest of this podcast, because there will be spoilers all the way through this.
You need to watch the film.
Yeah, so watch the film and then come back and listen to us.
Good point.
Should have said that at the start.
It's
anyway.
a proper eye opener because we will get into why. I mean, obviously Lou was in the best swim on the venue, but
hang on, let's just talk.
Dean,
my swim.
This is the Mark II Dean.
My swim was like the Bonnie Blue of swims on the lake. Everybody had been having a lot of success in it in the weeks leading up. It was getting smashed every week. The bailiffs have gone, you need to get in there, Lewis. It's doing all the bites. It's easy. You're going to have it away.
Oh, you were ushered in there.
Yeah, and by the time I've got in there, it's battered.
What you hadn't said was, right, guys, this is the best swim. Should we see who should go in it? You were like, no, I'm going in there.
You definitely said that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to be in
We've said this before as well. Quite often, when you're going somewhere where it's been really good, it's usually done.
The thing is, so that swim, it had, for the last month, maybe more, done bites consistently every day, but it had built up to literally a crescendo
of a guy having 18 days just before. And there'd been an easterly wind blowing in there for weeks, and it had penned them in early spring, and then it was just one of them with bad timing. We had a lot of bad timing across the 2 shoots we did, but it's one of them things. No excuses. There's
loads of excuses.
There was still opportunities.
There was opportunities. Didn't have the volume of fish in there that had been in there previously. And I do think if we'd gone a little bit closer into the corner,
100%,
I'd have had better chances. But again, everything's with hindsight.
Yeah.
But I on paper, my swim should have been the best based on the form leading up to it. But these things have fins and tails, and it soon became apparent when the drone went up the next day that the whole stock, it wasn't the whole stock because they know how many are in that lake. And I think when you sort of counted on it, it was actually only half the stock. And you think, fucking me, there is a lot of fish in this lake. Yeah. But there was hundreds of them in front of these 2 guys, the only 2 guys who weren't in our party who had booked the swim. It was black with them in that arm. Yeah, absolutely black with them. That was the area where you were fishing, Dean, where you didn't catch anything.
I did catch.
Did you catch?
I did. I had 2 actually. I had one when Sean walked into me swim and it went off. I have footage. I've got proof.
It's destroyed you, Lewis.
You did an early live thing there with that.
I
fish
did.
As well.
I did. Yes, I did. Yeah, I did a live. I actually did a film as well.
But we just said those guys. I don't think they caught.
No,
it was tough.
It was tough.
So November was shit, and when we thought that it was really going to be good at the end of April, which it should be clubbing season, that was tough and all. And it got even tougher because it went all pear-shaped, which we'd have never known.
So going on for that now, Harry, you decided to go open water on a raised bar area.
Yeah, I did at the start. So the
it's a plateau you were fishing at the start, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You didn't even fish, did you?
No,
I baited it up. Yeah. So I'd been told about this shallow area that they like to get on when it's sunny. So it was going to be sunny. It was a totally different spot to where Scott was fishing and where Lewis was fishing, because it was open water. Suited me, suited my how I like to fish a lot of the time. And baited it up, and then went and sat around with Scott, and then saw all the fish that were down the arm, and then went back to the swim. Was sort of like looking out, looking at the screen, looking out, put the drone up, look down, and it's just like, I'm just not feeling it.
He fucked us over, Dean. Basically, what Harry did.
How?
What Harry did was we had basically 4 spots we could do it, 4 swims, and what he did was he waited.
Fucked you over? Is that what you're saying?
He waited for me and Scott to go in our swims. Didn't go in his swim, and then waited to see what all the angling pressure did to the fish, and then
That's good angling.
And then rather than go in the swim he was supposed to go in, that we thought, because we were like, he's going to leave that swim free. Me and Scott knew they were going to end up in that swim later on in the week. It was a nice little move for me or Scott.
You knew.
And what he did was, because we looked at the weather forecast, we knew there was a chance they'd probably spawn end of the week. We knew that that's the area where they spawn, so we were like, we'll leave that free. We'll leave that quiet for a few days. Oh no, Harry then decides that within a few hours, no, I'm going to go fishing there. I'm going to go fishing there. I want to make it all about me and look how good I am. That's okay, fair enough.
Good angling.
I'll take the shit swim and just sit there.
You take the shit swim? Oh my lord, Lewis Porter.
So that's fine. Shit. It's a team event.
Love this. Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I decided to move because it totally made sense at the time, and I was proven.
Your decision was vindicated because you had a fish that evening.
Although I might well have caught the next day, but I don't think they would have.
There was loads on there.
I don't think they would have stuck around, and it just.
Dave fished it later on in the week and didn't.
But he
got done, I think, on that spot.
It was open water.
He didn't catch one.
You might have caught one, and then they might have just fecked off.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the way that they were behaving,
they were grouping up in that area to spawn eventually. Like that, there's no two ways about it.
No.
Like
where they got to, yeah.
Like that area became incredibly good because you experienced that feed up just before they.
And there was weed off the back of it, wasn't there? Weed to the left of it.
Yeah, there's hardly any weed in that lake because of the blue dye.
That was the only spot where there was weed.
Great area.
But I think, like, when was it? When was it? What date were we there? Was it the last week?
So we started on the 29th. No, 28th of April 28th. Was the first day we fished.
To think how early they spawned last year was nuts.
We fast forwarded quite a lot haven't we? I assume this isn't.
I'm going to write. I thought we were just chatting. Are we going through in chronological order?
Well, I think that's what Dean wanted to do.
I wanted to edit that out.
When you start getting into sort of the nitty gritty bits, the interesting stuff now, and the footage starts showing this. And as I'm watching the film, I'm thinking it, and then Harry talks about it, where the carp are almost acknowledging the lead. You see them look at it and look at it and look at it, and then there's a conversation between you pair, and then you're like, and then all of a sudden they're literally doing the lumbarder under the rig tube. So you're like, well, what are they clocking? Because they're doing something as they're coming in. You can see their eyes clock something and then move off quickly. Like something is not right. And that's the bit. What is that? What's your findings and thoughts on that?
At the time, for me, I obviously saw what was going on. I was like, they're looking at it. Like I'm just saying, whenever they get to it, they then don't feed and they move off, they turn, they stop.
It's that last second of
and there was no two ways about it. The thing is,
they've tried to suck them bastards in for years. They're too heavy. They never go in. So they're like, well, that's not food, obviously.
Like it's a clean sandy bottom. Yeah. Like yes, they don't. I don't believe that they know what a lead is, but I do believe they are aware of like foreign objects. I'm sure that. Like the cameras being there doesn't help. I'm sure that they would feed with more confidence if a camera wasn't looking at them. Not that they know what a camera is, but
I agree
the presence of that. So I was just bringing everyone's attention to the fact that that's what they were doing, or that's what those ones were doing. But then one decided not to. And then there's always that point where greed overtakes caution. And
I think that has a lot to do with it, to be honest. I'm not too sure whether camera is a thing, to be fair, because on one of the mornings they're all over the camera, weren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, like greed is just taken over there, so I don't think the camera when they come in like that and then they're spooking and what have you. I don't think the camera's got anything to do with it, to be honest.
I think there's things happening with that camera at times that you don't potentially realise, depending on the depth of water you're in, the angle of the sun.
Of course,
I think you maybe get reflections and glints and stuff. Even their own reflection at times potentially, which might make them feel safer because all of a sudden
there's two of them.
There's a fish that they're looking at a fish rather than a camera. So who knows? Like we're maybe over analysing it, but I think there would be different times of day and different depths of water where the camera may and what our camera looks like compared to some of the other underwater films. Some people like put weed around their cameras to try and hide them. Ours are pretty low and discreet, I would say, compared to some of the rigs I've seen other companies use and stuff. So I think, that there was a thing. Do you remember we did an underwater years ago at Raysbury? And every morning when we turn the camera on, the electricity obviously then goes back to the camera and the fish reacted. And it was like, we were like, can they sense the electricity through the water? Do they feel that?
Yeah.
Do they emit a sound? Is there some kind of sound?
Well, I know squirrels
carries through
squirrels
water.
will chew an electric wire that's on because there's something in the electricity pulse under that cable that makes a squirrel chew it. But if it's not live, they're less likely to chew it.
Maybe that's why they were trying to eat the camera.
Because there was that point where you had one literally in front of the camera.
I had two trying to eat the camera, but I think that's
because of your inaccurate spodding. There was all that spod mix over it.
I was throwing it in. I think I think at that point it was. Again, we're
people can draw their own.
At that point, I think it was a combination of how close they were to spawning, so it was that last feed up, and the way that I'd fed it.
Yeah. That we knew that at the time.
No.
Before I get into the rigs and what went on and people getting done, I wanted to talk about what you touched on in the film was the approach of the carp, where you think a carp coming from the hook bait first with the lead this side, is that the worst way a carp can approach it?
Yeah.
Because that's what you touched on. You always think it's better to have a carp approach it from the lead side first or from the side as opposed to coming to the hook bait first with the lead the other side.
You definitely have this
It's not
as well.
necessarily which direction they come from, it's what they do once they pick it up. So it could come from the other direction, but if it picks the upbait up and goes towards the lead, I think you mentioned this, that Elliot had mentioned it. It's harder for your rig to be effective.
Yeah.
But I think you can't. People say you put your rig here, put the bait there, the fish will come in that way. You can't say where those fish are going to come from. Yes, you put bait there, but that doesn't mean that everything comes around that way.
No, but
feeds from the bait and comes in.
I was thinking about this week ahead of the podcast, and generally, especially with like if you're snag fishing or open water fishing, normally the perception is that the majority of your traffic is coming from beyond your spot, rather than them spending time in and around your lines. So probably more often than not, they are approaching from the wrong side of the lead for getting done. And then I was thinking, well, would you be better off fishing with helicopter rigs with like really short chod but bottom baits or whatever, so your lead is past your rig, so as they come from that direction, they're past your lead, and then
that's not
moving away from it.
But then,
that's something to maybe.
I use that rig a lot, and I've done for years, haven't I? The little tiny short.
thingy.
But I don't, and it's a good point because when we do these underwaters, we use inlines and stuff like that. We'll take lead clips off because we want the lead to come in contact straight away. And I think people have done underwaters where you are fishing helicopters, but maybe not in that guise. Maybe not a short rig up. So it's probably a good point.
The problem you've got is generally with a helicopter is you're not getting enough contact with the lead quick enough because of the play that you've got behind it.
Again, like when we were discussing earlier about the fused booms, etc. With your rig, if you was to have that stiff section, mega stiff, like 60-pound stiff, and then they were to come in from the lead end, I think you'd get more pickups with a rig like that.
Maybe.
And maybe with a a huge.
You're just trying to get me to
butter
make
as well.
fuse
Well, there
burgers
is that as
60
well.
pounds.
So I've seen like on my last trip, I've seen things happen on my spot and stuff like that, and I feel like if you had a mega stiff section with that supple bit, I think no matter what way they come in, I reckon.
But you're thinking stiff, like out of an inline lead with an anti-tangle sleeve,
leave-
so
yeah.
that it
No,
is
I
stiff,
think even
or
with a
you'd have it
helicopter-
with the hinge.
I would still. I
yeah.
think even with a helicopter, I think you'd get away with it.
No, but I think with that inline lead, what Scott was using, he doesn't use the anti-tangle sleeve. And I think if that anti-tangle sleeve, if you use the XL long one and it was fixed in place, as they come from that direction and it lifts up, it's wanting to
pushes it back
yeah,
down.
because you get that with the match anglers with their flatbed method feeders having the boom coming out the back of the feeder. As it rises, that pivot is trying to pull it back down.
I don't like to use that because I want to make sure that my rig drops flat out of the inline, and if it falls funny, it's still got an opportunity to drop flat. But I've seen the underwater where Fairbrass has got the sleeve on, and he may well have a good point with that, which links into Lewis's point. If you can stop that from lifting up, then it may well be. But we can't get ourselves in a situation where we can film it. And what we would like to have done whilst we were there, but we ran out of time.
we would have ended up.
We wanted to start moving things around. We wanted to start changing things. We'd had a couple of fish. We wanted to start ringing the changes and trying to tweak the rigs, but unfortunately we got cut short.
Yeah.
But we have discussed about potentially the next underwater we do. We want to go somewhere we can get a lot more bites and really see if ringing the changes is going to make differences to what we think. When you're only catching 1, 2, 3 fish, you just don't get the opportunity to do that.
But since I have adopted a lot of Scott's rig since doing this, but added a few little things, and one of those is to not have that hinge at the at the lead end and to have it an anti-tangle sleeve. I haven't got an XL one because I'm only fishing it's only a 4-inch boom. So it's just a little anti-tangle sleeve, and because it's a relatively stiff boom, it should be doing that anyway.
See, I'd love
and
to
that's
see
that's
that.
caught me some fish. I've also been putting a little bit of putty
that's
on
a natural tweak
as well.
It's a natural tweak to what I was using, would be to stiffen it up, like Lou's saying, what Harry's doing, but we just never got the opportunity to do that.
But
I'd love to see that.
I think what goes against you, though, the stiffer you go, is the quicker they feel something alien on their bottom lip and spit, because they know that something's gone in their mouth that isn't.
Which is why
edible.
I reckon you want a massive bit of putty there.
Like you look at
That's
that.
with
Mozza's
Mozza's rig, and we definitely saw that on his underwater. Was they suck that like a braided hook link in really well, really far, but it can get blown out sort of anyway. It's not really dropping
Nothing's
in.
turning. Yeah.
As soon as you put that big bit of putty on, why you never put it on from the start?
Well, it was because I was tying them little bags on. It was a pain in the arse having to kink the rig and then put it over the knot of the bag. That's why
it's
I wasn't
mad,
putting
right?
the putty on.
So you took the putty off, thinking, it won't make that much of a difference.
Yeah, it won't matter.
And it made such a difference.
Massive.
But I do think, like, you look at Crowie, he always uses supple braid and catches lots of big fish. This very day that we're filming this, he's just texted me he's had a 45-pound linear this morning, so shout out to Crowie.
Yeah.
I do think that with that supple braid rig, it's spending more time in the mouth than the obsession that most anglers have with really stiff booms and spinner rigs and stuff like that, where it's in and out so quickly, and you're just relying on it catching hold as it comes out. And very rarely on any underwater films do you ever see them actually get hooked spitting. It's pick it up, moving, then they get hooked.
Yeah.
When they suck it and spit it out, whatever rig it is, pretty much, it comes flying out. And I think the longer that supple one's in their mouth and they carry on moving, there's that more chance of them not realising that something alien's in their mouth. And maybe that's what...
I still had mine straightened out, didn't I? And they still spat it out.
Yeah.
But that was because I had the hook bait wrong. Because the hook bait was too large, I felt. If I'd have carried on with the pepperami things, I think I'd have converted more bites, personally.
Well, you had one on that supple braided hook link where it was out straight. The fish came from the hook bait side rather than the lead side. has tried to suck it in, and because it's so straight, it hasn't actually gone into its mouth. It's not been able to get
That's the reason why I don't fish a chod straight off the leader. So I always have a little boom on there. I always have done for donkey's years.
This 1 year at Bundy's, my mate Tony swapped completely from what he normally did, started using long, supple braid rigs. They were long, though. A rubber tiger nut hook bait with a long hair over boilie crumb. You're not allowed to use tiger nuts. You're allowed to use fake bait, but you couldn't feed tiger nuts. So he couldn't feed tigers. So he put crumb out. Every fish he had, they were hooked, the deepest I've ever seen carp hooked. You had to use forceps every time down in their back of their mouths to get them. Those fish just, the really light rubber tiger and that really supple braided hook, I don't think they knew that there was something in their mouth that shouldn't have been there until that tiger nuts literally got to their teeth to chew, and now it's game over. Honestly, like, it weren't like, oh, that's a one-off. It was like week after week after week.
Do you reckon he's getting turned over more, though?
Potentially, but he caught more in that period than he'd caught doing what he'd done in the times before.
But then part of that is the baiting and that.
Nobody else has used a rubber tiger.
One thing, obviously, like the last 5 minutes or whatever has been really rig heavy, but the bait is so important.
Yeah, mate, I want to come to you on that.
Just before you do, just going on from that point. Yeah. When I talked might have been the last podcast, I was on about when about the sun and the fish moving in the swim, and I said I stalked a few fish out of the reeds in the shallows.
Yeah.
When I did that time, there's relevance to it. Basically, I was wading out, and it was weedy, and I'm wading out to dead carefully, because you don't want to spook anything, to place a rig in. And when I was wading out really slowly, the fish didn't even know I was there, because I think what happens is the weed stops the movement of the water getting to the fish, so they can't notice you there. Anyway, whilst I was doing that, I was like, fish like virtually swimming between my legs. I was like, I'm going to stalk these. So I took everything off.
Closed.
Fished straight through, all the way through. Fished all the way straight through to a whatever size hook it was, with a stiff hair off the back of it, just all in line.
Yeah. And
I put 2 baits on, sort of like butterfly style, like back to back. And I was basically stalking this fish. And I was it was closer to me than it was the rod tip. So I was pulling the rod tip back, and I cleared the weed with the rod tip like that to make a hole in it. And I dropped this bait in, and I dropped it in and lay the line flat on the weed, so it was just sitting in front of this fish. And I watched this fish closer than, nearly like Mozza's mic, that close. I watched it suck the bait in. I saw the bait go in, and it's 15-pound mono, probably Daiwa sensor back then. This has gone in, so it's not super soft, but it's also not mega stiff and obvious. It's 15-pound mono, it's gone in. I watched it go in the mouth, and I was like, and it does that, and you're like, is it still there? And there's a bit of weed movement around. I'm like, is it still there? I'm not too sure. And then I could see the line going like that. This is how close I was. I see the line going like that, and I thought, it's in its mouth. This is always happening over a second.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm sure that's in its mouth. It must be. Well, I've got one opportunity, and I'll blow it if it's not, because if I strike it, it's not in its mouth, I'm fooked.
Yeah.
So what I saw, I could see the line going, and I thought, it must be in. So I've like gone like that, wound out, bosh, and hit it, and it's all hell broke loose. I've landed the fish, and when I've landed it, it's that far back. Really? So it's gone in, 15-pound mono coming out of its mouth, and whilst it's doing that, chewing, it was trying to get that bait that was attached to the line further back. Bloody and I'm watching it doing it, thinking, is it just sifting or doing something? But it was moving that bait in, and literally, it was that far back in its mouth.
So that then links into a point I was going to make about the stiff hook links, like straight to a Ronnie section or whatever. I think in certain circumstances, yes, they can convert a lot of pickups because of how fast they act.
Yep. But
I would question the hook holds on those more, and I feel like you might convert more pickups, but I don't think you'd convert as many that you hook into landed fish sense. Because of where you're hooking them. Which is why, like with the do you use the fluorocarbon for the link fluorocarbon for your booms? So
on the combi, on a hinge stiff rig, my little ones, I use the rigidity, £30 for the hook section and the boom.
Yeah, but that's a very different a very different setup.
But yeah, £25 link.
So I've been using the
mono,
the Link mono,
which
is also our shock leader mono, which is a little bit more supple.
Yeah.
Still stiff, but not like rigidity stiff, and not as stiff as a fluorocarbon. Just because I feel like it gives them a little bit more rope.
I used to use it all the time, and then I went to the fluorocarbon.
Yeah, and with the little braid section, you've got a little bit more movement as well.
I'll back that as well, because the recent trip that I've just had, I'm using £60 stiff booms, because there's other scenarios going on in the lake at the time, and you've got to use something that's untangleable, basically. With a Ronnie section, all the hook holds were terrible. Like the worst hook holds. And I was trying to tinker around with bits and bobs, but the problem is with doing that is then you're hindering the bites.
Yeah, because you're literally reliant on basically the length of the hook shank pretty much as how far it's going in, aren't you? Because that real stiff thing, there's no play there for it to fly.
There's crayfish in there, so you were having to get around that.
Allegedly.
Apparently. Yeah, so you're having to get round that, and obviously hence what using the £60 stiff booms and stuff, but the hook up, like the biggest fish I had at a trip, it was like literally just about there. If it did one more surge, it'd have been gone.
But this is the thing with underwater. I do feel like what we're doing is constantly trying to look at a better way of hooking a fish, but that does often detract from all of the other elements of fishing, which is part of that is landing.
Because ideally, you want to take away rather than add. God.
The KD rig was pretty good at like hooking a fish, but the hook holds were all over the place.
Yeah, I've never lost so many fish on that.
Oh, terrible! I would have never. Yeah.
No, I used it. I think for 2 sessions, lost half of what I hooked and sacked it off.
Yeah, I decided to use it for the first time ever in my life in the British Carp Championship final at Broadlands. Having never ever used it, because it was we wanted to use solid bags on there because that's what Ian Poole and John Finch had won on the year before. So it wanted a rig that was really quick to tie loads up to go in solid bags, and because it's just literally a knotless knot under the hair. And we were putting a split shot on the hair with a pop-up hook bait, so we knew everyone would be a wafter and sink. Done loads of them, had loads of them tied up, kept putting them on, casting them into the pads, rattle off, hook pull. I'll put another one, rattle up. At some point, we're going to have to just fuck all these bags off we've tied and start again, because this fucking KD rig is shite.
Yeah.
But yeah, not the time to learn a bad rig.
No.
When you mentioned about the little bit at the end, the supple bit, one thing I wanted to do, we never got the opportunity to, was to start increasing the length of that. Because I only used mine very short after the putty to give enough movement for the hook. And if I'm fishing it as a pop-up, I want it to sit up only that much, or I want it to drop down. But I think there's probably tweaking that length of that might be beneficial. It might be that your stiff's 4 inches, and it might be that the best way of fishing that supple bit might not be. It might be 1 inch long or 1.5 inches or even 2 inches long, but you're not popping it up from the knot. You're popping it up if you're popping it up. You know what I mean? I think there's a bit there that
there's
needs
a sweet spot. Yeah,
and I don't know what that sweet spot is, and we can't see.
Jim Lightfoot, who lives out in France now, English angler. If you watch any of his YouTube vlogs he has on there, like they're very raw, like one man and a camera kind of things. But I really enjoy watching them because he's got great personality. And his rig, he uses the same rig pretty much all the time, and it looks shocking to me, but it's effective. He catches lots of fish, and that is a stiff mono or whatever boom, and then it's a combi rig, old school combi rig, then a supple braid, but you're talking about several inches of a supple braid. It's nearly looks 50-50 between the stiff section and the supple section, and it looks, because of everything we've been conditioned by for the last 20 years, it doesn't look right. But he's used that rig for 30 odd years, and it catches him.
But we see a lot of our European anglers using things like that, are using rigs that we go like are sort of snobby UK anglers going, oh my god, what is that? Like, what are you doing? But you know, they're some of the most successful anglers on the continent. and they catch way more big fish than we do, and it's like, well, it works.
Yeah, I think that'd be an interesting one. That having a stiff and supple, making the supple bit longer than what we've kind of. I mean, normally when I do that, I'm the tiniest amount of supple just out the top of the shrink tube or the liner, just to make sure it turns. Yeah,
I reckon about 3.5 to 4 centimeters.
Maybe so.
Do you think?
That's what I would imagine. Yeah. I'd love to go somewhere that we could do that, because I think for me, I'm very confident in that rig. But I think there's still more you can do with it. Maybe the sleeve to stop it from hinging, and then maybe increasing that up a bit. But we just never got the chance to do it, which is
and it would be cool to have seen that on the underwater on a helicopter set. A different head setup as well would have been wicked.
So there's more we can do.
One day
there's
we'll
more we can look at and stuff.
One day we'll find that venue and we'll be able to try and ring all those.
And one day
changes.
Amazing them fishing there as well. Like they're so lovely carp.
They're so nice. He's done such a great job. Like. Most of those fish will be fish he's bred himself.
A big percentage of them he's bred on site in the sandpit. Yeah, there's also fish from Simo and VS, I think, in there as well. Yeah, and some original commons and the odd original mirror, I think, that would have been stocked by Rod Hutchinson back in the day.
Wow.
But yeah, incredible stock. But yeah, I only got to see them on the film. I didn't actually see them on the bank.
Well, talking of that, Lou, I want to move on now to a carp playing headers and volleys with your rig.
More heads than volleys.
Yeah, the 360 rig with the old little white pop-up trimmed down. Just looking at that.
Pink.
Was it a pink? Was it?
Was it a pink one? Yeah. The one I brought in today's got white on it, but yeah, I think I was using pink on the film.
Yeah. So obviously, I know. Once the guys have watched the film, they'll see the 360. You got rid of that, but I just wanted to know, like, you've got the underwater cameras there. It's a big filming project, and then the next step, you wanted to opt for a rig you've never used before in this pressure situation. That's the hinge stiff on the bottom presentation.
The binge rig.
Yeah. Why did you opt for that?
Yeah. Why did you opt for that?
Because he likes to make things challenging. He just admitted that he used a rig he's never used before.
I just want to know why. Yeah,
that's it, isn't it? He just wants
There's a pattern here. Yeah. It's high pressure situations.
I admire you, Lewis.
I really go to absolute shit.
We'll go back to the 360 to start with, right, Dean?
Yep.
So that's a rig that I've caught untold big fish from all over Europe on clean lake beds. Generally big fish, because I'm a big fish angler, right? So
I'd love to continue with significant banter, but I've got
at the sand pit. It's a high stock of fish, average size probably 20s, but there's a really big zip linear in there, and there's some really nice big other mirrors in there.
We know where it's going.
So if all three of us just all fish the same, just trying to catch multiple fish and catch the small ones, it would be a one-dimensional film. So I took up the mantle as a big fish angler.
Such shit! Whoever's listening to this believing it, honestly.
To try and catch big fish.
You took one for the team, mate, didn't you?
So
again, you took so many for the team.
Harry, when he was fishing for England, bless him, he was happy to spend 5 days catching 4-pound commons for his country, and that's admirable. And he'd catch as many of them as he can, but I would rather catch 140 than 10 4-pounders. That's just the way I am.
You didn't do that though, either.
So I went in with the 360 because I think out of all the rigs in my armoury, if something does suck it in, that's the one that's got the best chance of hooking them out of everything else, right?
Okay.
It's not to say it's 100, 10 out of 10 hooker, but as I said, I think it's when I said earlier about how when on all this footage, when you see them suck it in and blow it out, the rig, they tend to get away with it all the time. It's only when they're moving. I think we've seen on other underwater footage before that the 360 does have the ability when it's spat out, because the way it spins as it comes out, that it can catch hold as it's coming out. Not necessarily the best hook holds though when that happens. So that was what I went in with on my one rod. Now that is popped up off the eye of a size 5 hook. So it's not a hinge stiff rig, inches and inches above the bottom. You're talking about the height of the hook on the bottom. So it's not.
Which is exaggerated on the TV.
Yeah, because you're looking side on.
Yeah.
The carp generally as they come down, they come from above a rig and they feed. And my thing is, if the rig is literally the depth of a hook off the bottom, as it's looking from down below, it can't tell that is off the bottom. That will just look like it's still on the bottom. So they come round, put their mouth out, suck it, it goes in. The main issue, I think, was the type of feed that I fed was crumb and pellet, and that isn't my normal fishing. I would normally feed whole boilies and fish a rig.
This is a long sentence into our 2026 book of excuses.
Where I went, let myself down, was I wanted to try and catch something for the underwater film. So I went away from my true principles of big fish angling, where I'd have only fed boilies, by putting pellets and crumb in, because the guy who'd hammered it the week before, who'd had 18 fish in 4 days or whatever, was solid bag fishing with pellets. So I'm like, if I don't use pellets and crumb, the bailiffs who have said this is the swear, they're going to he's fucked it straight away. He's put old boilies in. So I'm not fishing. I let myself down by not sticking to my principle.
But at the same time, Harry and Scott were using the micro pellet.
And getting fish feeding really well.
Off over there, sort of thing.
But so I've put the crumb in, and when I've added pellet in, that has made fish feed more for sure.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're hugging the bottom and sucking it like a Hoover. Now my pop up that is literally the height of a hook off the bottom.
Maybe the swivel as well.
No, it was sitting on the eye.
I'm not sure it was
sitting on the eye.
I think in the footage it's sitting off of the swivel,
sitting on the eye. I say it numerous times in the film. So now that is too high for their nose. Their mouth is hugging the bottom. Without a doubt, that was an eye opener. That kind of
it looked scenario. Like a seal, didn't it? It was like,
yeah. It could have foul hooked it because of how tight to the bottom it was. So then I thought, well, that rig's got to stay out there, because I still maintain, like, when one of them big 30s or 40 comes in the swim, that's your best chance of nailing the big one.
Yep.
But I couldn't ignore what we saw, so then I thought I need to put a bottom bait rig out. Now, we'd already seen on the previous trip to the sandpit that the D rig got done by Shaw, like Sean's D rig was done. And that would have been, back then, my go-to bottom bait rig would have been a fluorocarbon D rig. But not only on our film, but on some Sipography films, I think maybe on one of the other brands, maybe Corder's film, D rigs get done quite a lot. The fluorocarbon D rigs.
And the shit.
So I was like, I'm not putting that out, because if I get done on that, I'm not going to get loads of chances. I'm going to maybe get one chat. Yeah. So I thought, no. So then I was thinking, well, I like the principle of having a D rig, like for the hook bait part, but maybe I need more rotation so the hook can turn more, because with that D rig fluorocarbon, the hook, if it's laid flat on the lake bed, I don't think it's in the perfect position to hook the fish. So I thought, fuck it, like a hinge stiff rig. When you hook fish on a hinge stiff rig, they're always nailed. They're always like perfect distance back.
Yeah,
nailed. So I thought, well, I'll try it on the bottom. I've never tried it on the bottom. We're here to learn. Like, these boys had it sus. They were catching fish doing what they're doing. So why? I could just put what they were on, doing what they were doing. What's the point? I may not have been have been there. I don't mind taking risks. That's that's fine. Like, there's pioneers, and then there's people.
This is a sentence. This is a chapter in the book of excuses.
So I'm not going to try and preach and tell people what to do. Like, I'm going to be the one who tries
it's probably for the best. That
I don't know what's to say. And those who can do, those who can't teach, or something like that. I'll let you do that. So I put the binge out to see whether it, because in theory, once that's sucked into the mouth, it should behave the same as it would do if it was a pop up. But it never got sucked in, so we'll never know. So sorry, Harry. Let me continue. So in the film, you'll see that Harry and mainly Scott tried to belittle how high the pop up was on the 360. We can
zoom in and see.
Which is why I've asked Harry to bring his rig in, and I've brought my rig in today. So I was intrigued to put them side by side to see how much higher was my hook bait off the lake bed compared to Harry's.
I need to find it and look again myself.
And I've had a look, and we can have a look now. It's about half height of a pop-up difference.
Okay.
So we're not talking about a 4-inch hinge rig compared to Harry's is flat on the lake bed. We are talking Harry's.
So we'll have a bit of a zoom in on these.
Yeah.
If you're
We'll do
listening
some
to this,
close-up.
guys,
You'll have to watch.
Can I just say for the record, watch the YouTube. I believe your hook bait was sitting off of the swivel like that.
We'll zoom in on this after, Dill.
So Harry sits like that with his hook point touching the lake bed, like that. Mine sits with
Hold on, why are you holding it off of the table?
Look, mine is off the eye of the hook.
It was not off the eye of the hook.
I think.
And you can see that is about.
Dean, can you get it on your laptop there?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it now.
Half the depth of a pop-up difference.
At what point was it?
It's about a centimetre and a half. I think
the
it's.
viewers can go on at the video, watch the video, and judge for themselves how high off the bottom it is.
When was it?
But the point is that I'm not saying that I'm not trying to. What I'm saying is even half a pop-up's difference
Makes
can
a difference.
make the difference.
Yeah.
Harry was able that little bit lower.
Sorry.
That little bit lower definitely made a difference, and it completely changed my fishing ever since then because I learnt a big
welcome.
lesson. I mean, we won't go over old ground, but the amount of big fish that I've caught subsequently since that film, with the changes I learned, unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? We've all learnt things. I was going to ask you, H, as well. Oh, he's got it.
At 1 hour 1 hour and 5 minutes and 19 seconds, I think. But I got bloody things at the bottom. Subtitles. I need to get rid of them because the subtitles are right over the
swivel.
There you go.
Yeah, that is. You can see it there. I'm going to screenshot it. You can see there that is not sitting off the eye.
Yeah, mate.
That swivel is off the bottom.
You can't tell because the angle.
Of course you can.
You can't tell because of the angle. Because the angle that's pointing. You've got.
Guys,
sorry.
You watch on your big
that is well off the bottom.
That's the angle. The angle of the camera.
You can see the swivel underneath it.
The angle of the camera. That's you can't tell.
Right, this is going to.
Anyway, either way, it would be.
It's impossible.
Yeah, look, there's the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's impossible. The angle of the
It's
camera.
not impossible. There's the eye, Lou.
Yeah, but you'll see the eye. It's touching the sand.
It's not. It's nowhere near the same.
Either way, it's still not a lot of difference, even if it does include the swivel, because it's not exactly a massive swivel.
No.
Yeah. But when they're feeding like they were, that much is a lot, I suppose, when the carp's feeding as they were, with that micro pellet and that crumb, when they're hoovering, having that difference of, what we're talking about now,
Yeah,
half a pop-up
a 40mm pop-up difference.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference.
Look, we mentioned this before, and in a underwater filming situation, you're trying to get a bite in an area that big. So you're using crumb and stuff and everything like that to try and get it on the screen. I still think that if Lewis was using his 360 in a boilie fishing situation in a bigger spread, he would.
I've done the same. Not even with boilies, fishing over corn, but on like a spotted area where you're fishing for your bait spread further.
The free feed was the bigger impact on it rather than the rig.
100%.
Think of the number of people who watch this podcast, listen to it, and watch the underwater film. So many of them, because they are influenced by much of the modern media, will use spinner rigs, right, and Ronnie rigs. It's such a popular thing.
Yeah.
And they will be chucking them out on clean lake beds a lot of the time, and they sit higher than the 360 rig does because they do always sit with with the swivel kicked up as well. So I think I don't mind my approach being Scott and Harry's point of banter. It's there to learn from, and I think if somebody who fishes a Ronnie rig on a really clean lake bed thinks twice about doing that and uses a bottom bait presentation or a wafter presentation and tries it and finds success, then I think that's good. The whole thing of the underwater thing is to learn, right? It's not about look how great I am, I catch loads of fish and whatever.
And I think this is the point as well, that it's like there's so many rigs that all work very, very well, but like this is a certain type of presentation that works better with different feeding scenarios, and there are rigs that you should use in certain scenarios that you shouldn't in other scenarios.
I was going to say the same thing.
If I had watched the Corder Carp Lantis video with when Tom Dove and Neil Spooner took over the swim, if I had watched that before we filmed last year, I would have fed completely different, because I didn't. Yeah. It never really occurred to me in my mind that we could feed the swim on an underwater film where most of the feed isn't in front of the camera. Tom Dove goes out there and says, well, I'm not going to put a tight patch right close together just so it's in front of the camera. I'm going to spread bait around and get those fish moving around between mouthfuls to get them to hook them. And it worked absolute treat. It's textbook.
It was.
And after we filmed, and then I watched that and I was like, why the fuck did we have in our mind that you had to put all your free feed in front of the camera?
Yeah.
And you've gone and put crumb and pellet that you wouldn't have normally done because you're paranoid about trying to fish differently. I wish I'd fished.
I didn't do that when I baited up. I didn't try and get it all in front of the camera. I was like, a bit there.
Yeah, I did with my underwater. It was all up the snags and all that. Like, I didn't put
do
it
that in a normal fishing
camera.
situation. I spread it about.
I wouldn't want. I would never in a normal fishing situation want everything within
as much as it. As much as the banter was good for Lou, and we were having a bit of banter doing it. I think that's one thing that we all have taken, not just from this, from other bits of underwater that we've seen before. There is no wonder rig. There is different rigs in different situations, as Harry rightly put it. And I think the bigger point, and another point that I'd like to do if we do underwater again, is bait. Is baiting situations, baiting spread, different bait, different bait types, because I think that has probably more a bearing than the rig that you use. And I reckon if you can get them eating boilies confidently and moving, then loads of rigs will work.
Yeah. But the problem is he's getting them eating boilies confidently. That's hard. Hard. It doesn't happen everywhere. No. And
more so now than ever before, because let's rewind years ago, and we said this, how fishing's changed. People are using crushers and all this kind of thing. When was the last time you went to a fishery and somebody rocked up with 5 kilo of boilie and catapulted 2 kilo out to start fishing, or a kilo, whatever, and only fish boilies?
Pretty much all the syndicate fishing I do, it's that side of fishing. With the type of angler fishing those lakes, they're not day tickets. They're like generally lower stock, small membership syndicates. Most of the people are fishing chods or hinges or spinners and baiting only with boilie, like that spread fishing.
I would say there's probably less people doing that now than there was years ago.
Yeah. But like I'm not saying it's representative of the masses. The only one place that I've fished in recent times where it's different is the big Kames gravel pits complex that Jimmy talked about when he was in a few weeks back, where it's mainly bait boat fishing, and then the guys are loading up hoppers with party blend and crumb and all sorts, and catching 20 tench a night and just wading their way through the tench trying to catch carp. But yeah, like I think, like I say, from my point of view, like that's the biggest regret I have from that whole film was not just putting boilie, but it's really hard. Like Lee and Jack, the owners at Westmore, I've known them a long time. They're great guys. When we went there in October, November, we ignored some of their advice, and it didn't go great. But the weather was against us. I thought, I'm not going to ignore what they tell me this time. Like in terms of the guy was just catching on just a PVA bag, just a little amount, and if I just said, yeah, thanks for that information, what I'm going to do is put out a pop-up rig and throw boilies everywhere, straight away they're going to be like, oh, what are we doing letting these people come?
Yeah, they're not listening again.
And that was a mistake. Yeah. I'm not saying I would have caught, but I would at least been happier blanking doing it exactly my way rather than a hybrid of part of what I do and part of what I don't do. Yeah, that was just stupid.
It's a really high-pressure situation because you don't want to go in and go, oh, well, this might not work, and if I do it and it doesn't work, that's it, screwed. Like you saw it with that carp plantis underwater where Danny put out like 15 kilos and then they were hoovering it up off the spot a day later because it absolutely screwed it.
Yeah, because
you don't want to be in that situation.
He took the owner's advice of you need to go fill it in. So he went and did what against his instinct, and it is tricky because often you go to lakes. I would always say listen to bailiffs and owners. They want you to catch. They're not going to like tell you duff info, and it's a good starting point on lakes. But for sure. I mean, we're running out of time, Dean. I'm sorry, and it's kind of been hijacked more about my failings rather than Scott and Harry's. No, but
success. I wanted to move on to the fact that yes, like you briefly mentioned earlier that you probably doing what you did then learned and changed more in your fishing that then had a really positive impact on the rest of your fishing for that year than either Scott or I. Yeah. So like what was that about?
Well, I knew I needed to. I was going back to Westmore literally 10 days later or something like that but to go on the Spessy Lake, the one with the real big ones in, the 50-pound fully. And I knew I was going to be fishing on sand again. The carbon copy lake beds is the one next door. And I thought, well, I'm not going in with the 360, even though I've done well on that lake with it in the past. And I knew I needed to use a bottom bait rig. And I thought I'm going to go all the way back to like how I would have fished a long time ago, and just a standard blowback rig, liner kicker, coated braid with a little bit of a hinge. But I wanted to still use like a high tracked hook bait. I didn't have any wafters. I'm not a massive fan of wafters anyway. I'd much rather control the buoyancy of my hook bait by adding weight to it or cutting it down rather than relying on what it comes out of the tub. So I got these hook baits that Jim Wilson had rolled and given to Scott before he passed away, and I added a split shot on the hair. One of those pop-ups, they were that buoyant, they still needed to be trimmed to get them to sit, but they sat on the bottom like a bottom bait would, but they were still a higher tracked pink hook bait. And the results I had on the Spessy Lake was my best I've ever done on there. I think it was the best week of the year on there. I mean, it's a good week because it's May, obviously. But
so you got to thank us for the banter that we gave you to put
I think I caught four 40s. And
you took it out.
So one of the 40s I caught twice in the week.
Did you use an inline or a lead clip?
Lead clip. Yeah.
Boy, you would have had 6 40s if you used an
inline. 5 ounce leads and on lead clips, and then that blowback rig, like I say, we've just whittled down the same hook bait I'd basically use on a 360, but with a split shot on it to make it a bottom bait. I didn't want it to be a wafter. I wanted it to be a bottom bait, but a bright bottom bait.
Are you taking this all in, Moz?
Yeah, mate.
Need to be.
Taking it all in.
Need to be.
Because didn't your pal catch that big scaly thing in there as well? That week?
He caught the big one at 52.
How'd he catch that?
That's his story to tell, Moz, not mine.
Oh, you gotta give him the info. He's doing it underwater on it in a couple of weeks.
He caught it at night, so that one feeds that feeds in the dark. So, but I can confirm it was caught on the bottom. Yeah. No popper
in the lake. Yeah. It was caught in the lake.
That was caught like under the rod tip as well.
Was it?
Most of my fish were caught in the margins, and that one was caught in the margins. So yeah, I think from an underwater filming point of view, there'll be opportunities to see fish for sure.
I'd like to see that one. That's for sure.
I feel like that's going to be a bit of a different underwater film where it's less seeing loads of action and get it and trying to like work out what the best rig is. It's more we're here for a session and trying to catch a giant.
Yeah. I think you'll see fish because I think there's 60 carp in there in about 2 acres. So I think you'll see quite a volume of them on the camera, because if you're putting like 4-5 cameras out, what you're going to do, if you put them on the right spots, you'll cover. And I'm fishing there the week before you guys go there to make the underwater film.
Fill it in. So you'll give them half the info by the sounds of it.
So I'll be able to tip you off where the fish had been, and I think you'll see them. What will be the interesting thing is whether you can get them competing and feeding heavily or not. But it'll be interesting, and for sure, like I'm sure there's like 40 of them are £30 plus. I think there's like maybe 10 40s in there or something, and they're big scaly, a lot of them. I think there'll be some wicked.
Like imagine some of them absolute giants feeding in front of the camera.
Don't let any
you will be having heart attacks.
And the fact that it's me and Bart doing it as well, I think will make for good bants as well.
It will. Yeah,
thoroughly looking forward to that trip.
Should just add in, this is subject to the water being clear enough in another month's time before filming. At the moment,
it's lovely.
It's really clear according to Lee. So,
but these things can change.
Right.
Yeah, but
fingers crossed.
It could be perfect.
The Mere's gin clear at the moment.
But to be fair, if it's not clear enough, I think we're still going to go and make a film.
Yeah,
with just me and Bart.
Yeah.
Sound.
Yeah, we've paid for we've got
the lake. You're getting we've paid for food as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, happy days. I'll bring my kids.
Bring them all. Bring the family.
That's the only reason you're bringing them to Blue Water.
Well, there is that.
You're getting fed every
Who's
day.
coming to Blue Water?
Lewin's
coming.
Lewin's coming to Blue Water. Yeah, it's his turn.
It's his turn.
Yeah. He won't fly, so that's why he didn't go to the Ebro.
Ah, okay.
That's the other one. Anyway.
Well, it just shows, doesn't it? We're sort of touching on the underwater thing. I know a few people go, oh, it's another underwater film, but it just goes, we never ever stop learning on these underwaters. And I think it's probably the best way to learn about how fish feed, how they get away with it. I wanted to touch on as well, just before I get into asking you the last question on the underwater, just a shout out as well to Mr. Jimmy Wilson for his pop-ups coming to fruition again on one of our shoots. Was it the first fish you had was on one of his pop-ups again?
Yeah, I think it was.
That was the first fish.
Yeah, it was the first fish caught, wasn't it?
And then, like Lewis said, he then took him in a few weeks down the line and had a boatload of 40s.
Yeah, they caught a few fish then.
Is there any more of them going spare for a couple of weeks' time?
I've got some in my pot you'll see next week.
No, I mean for our underwater shoot there.
Yeah, well, bring a pot and I'll let you have some of mine.
Thank you.
But there is what's left in a pot and that's it.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So I want to sort of wrap this up, guys, with a question to each of you. And it's the same question. This year marks 20 years of us going underwater as an industry. Before, when we first all see the first videos that went out and we started to learn, I wanted to ask each of you individually, what have you taken from the underwater over that time of 20 years and put into your own angling collectively? What's the biggest aspect you've put into you behind the rods and your findings? I don't know who wants to go first with that.
I think the most interesting bit of underwater film that there's ever been, or the most useful, and it really helped confirm things for me, was when Mozza and Hughesy did testing swing back and where your spods, where you need to clip your spod up in relation to your baited rigs. That video it's not particularly long. It's only on one subject. There's no fish that get caught, but it is really valuable information. And if you follow what they learnt in that, which is if you clip your rods up for every 3 to 4 foot of water, a foot in front of your spod, you will land it on the spot every time.
Yeah, it was a good fit. I get probably more questions about that than most other underwater things. I think for me personally, I think it's seeing them find changing such minute things can make such a difference.
Yeah.
I.e., like my underwater shoot with the putty was, ridiculous. So you would never think, because I'd prefer to take away from a rig than I do add. But
I think the problem is that in most fishing situations you don't have the benefit of seeing what's going on, so you don't necessarily know, do you? No. But the difference that a little thing like that makes is unreal.
For me, it would be a fox production. It wasn't one where we were fishing for fish live. It was another one with Rob Hughes. I think Harry did it with him at Fort Lee. It's a Chodrig one. And it was how you shouldn't feel the lead down on a tight line if you're Chodrig fishing, because as you cast out, the Chodrig flies up your lead or up your line to your stop bead at the top because the air resistance is making it fly. You hit the clip, the inertia then makes the rig fly back down to the lead.
Right.
Because obviously your lead stopped, but your hook bait, your Chodrig is free moving, so it carries on moving forwards, hits the lead, and then if you pull it down on a tight line, it can drag it down with it, and therefore if you're going into weed, it can drag it into the weed. So you should hit the clip and then let it free fall down, so that as the lead goes down, the resistance as it goes through the water, the buoyancy of the pop-up slides it back up.
Right, okay.
And Rob did that with Harry, and it was a proper eye-opener. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Why do you need to feel for a clean drop if you're Chodrig fishing? The idea is you should be chucking it into the shit and the dirt and not be getting a drop.
It is a full-on pub chuck.
And a friend of mine, Christian, who Ginge, he's never courted publicity, caught loads of big fish in the past. He's a massive Chodrig user. He was years ago, and I remember he never felt for it, and I'm like, what? Like, this was before Rob. We've learnt that, and I was like, you're not fish for a drop. He's like, why do I want a drop? Like, I'm chucking it into the shittest weed beds possible. Like, I want it. I don't care. And he wasn't doing it because he knew that it wouldn't separate and it would drag it in. He was just like, there's no need to feel for a drop because I'm just chucking. I know I'm chucking it into weed, so I'm just going to chuck it into the weed and let it do its thing. And he would get pickups at times from seagulls where his hook bait is sitting on top of the weed so shallow under the surface, but he would just fish where the fish were. That was all he was bothered about. If he sees fish, he casts that chod rig, don't feel it down, chuck it where they are. Minimal disturbance, throw in stick boilies, and he would catch carp. Unbelievable angler. And then we did that thing with Rob where they did the whole like testing it like that. But then I do see lots of good chod rig anglers who do feel the lead down and do well. And I'd love for us to be able to go into their swim. Luke Stevenson's one where I've fished on the same lake as him, where he's chod rig fished and he's still feeling the lead. He's not letting it just free fall.
Do they still have their rig starting by the lead, or do they have a stopper?
Yeah. You see, with Luke, he has a section of lead core with a stop because he doesn't want the hook point to hit the lead or get caught around the leg.
But it's serving another purpose.
And I think what happens is it starts off. I might be wrong, so Luke, correct me. But I think Luke and I think Jimmy Armstrong does it the same way. They have like a bit of a tag of mono off the bit to the lead core, so it stops it doing that. But when you get a bite, it can pass down to the lead, so that lead core's protecting your line from the swivel, and then the rest of it's naked behind. So I think, in theory, if they're feeling it down, they maybe got 6 to 8 inches.
Yeah.
Worst case.
And you might, if it's naked as well, I don't think we filmed it naked. If it's naked as well, you might get, even when you're feeling it down, you might get a bit more separation because there's less friction.
We need to try, maybe test that in the future.
That is,
naked ones and that.
Dylan's doing his diving qualifications. Yeah. So
Mandel's on it.
Is that safe, is it?
Hopefully it will be.
The new Rob Hughes. But yeah, so that'd be for me the chod rig, separation and feeling the lead down for me. Closely followed by, this has been not just one film now, this is multiple films, the effectiveness of pink as a hook bait.
As well. Jesus Christ.
Music to Harry's ears.
I think
horrendous.
I think the Corda St John's one was the first one that really made you think, geez, there's definitely a reaction to that. And then ever since then,
it's a reoccurring theme.
Carp and match fishing underwater films, pink. Yeah,
there's something there, isn't there?
Yeah, but I still prefer to put white out for some reason.
Mental, absolutely mental.
What about you, Scott? What's your take on it over the last 20 years?
Talking of colour, what I remembered the yellow that you put out on the underwater in that blue
my
water.
God.
How bright did that
that was
look?
insane.
So bright.
That was crazy.
So bright in comparison to anything else.
And it didn't go anywhere near it.
They hated it.
The bright yellow ones in the spring is wicked, but not then. And not in that situation.
That's what I mean. It's still. This is the part of angling that's great.
And this
it still keeps you.
And this is the bit that you.
It shouldn't be yellow though, should it? In that lake, the water's dyed blue.
I don't know. It's
If you're
irrelevant. What I'm
looking
saying
through
is
blue at yellow, you'd see green. So were they seeing a green
pop up?
I don't know. It just
Pop up.
looked bright.
It looked bright on the
No, it
to us on the camera.
it did look yellow. It did look yellow.
To what? But it shouldn't do, should it? Through blue.
I don't know. It doesn't make any difference. It just looked crazy bright. Regard what you're going to do, get to a water and go, oh, the water looks a bit browny.
Yeah,
so
but
I'll
was
change
it
the colour
looking
of my
bright
update.
to you on the camera because it was overexposing on the camera?
I don't know.
Was it natural?
All I'm saying is it looked bright. I'm not saying
Well, no,
I was
it
swimming
definitely
around
didn't
and it
look
looked bright.
natural because it was bright yellow. But neither did the pink. Didn't look natural because it was bright pink.
But
But the pink did look duller than the yellow.
But that's again because the pink
I'll answer
goes
your question in a
purple.
minute, Dean.
I was going to say
the blue,
I am
looks-
colourblind, but to me, I would imagine that's what purple looks like.
Yeah,
it had that
it
sort
went
of purple.
purple, didn't it?
I'd imagine.
He would keep going in. Your alarms, you do know that one's purple and the rest are blue. And I was like, whatever.
Sorry,
just
to
imagine.
answer your
Right.
question, I just thought I'd throw that one out there because it was an observation that we hadn't discussed that was quite obvious when we did it. To answer your question, more of a summary that I think we've already mentioned, and that regardless of whatever you watch, there is no wonder rig.
No,
You know,
there isn't.
If the fish picks your bait up and goes towards the lead, you're struggling straight away. And two, the baiting situations that most people employ on an underwater camera isn't reflective of the situation you may be putting yourself in when fishing. So take the information that you see from the underwater, but then apply it to your own experience and your own understandings and your own thoughts and theories.
Yeah.
And then apply what you can see, but put it into your own. It isn't gospel. Whatever you see on underwaters isn't gospel because no 2 days are the same. No 3 time periods within the day are the same. Where the sun is, different weather conditions. You know, what might work one day won't work the next day. There is no holy grail. Use this rig, use that colour bait, put that bait out, spread it 4 inches apart. There is none of that. It's simply use what you're confident in, use what you know that works. And something I've always said, people go, why are you so meticulous in your rigs and all that kind of thing? Because I think every single little percentage you can put in your favour might be a big difference between hooking it and landing it or not getting a bite. But also no two situations are ever the same. So you've got to sort of try and angle yourself in the situation and read the best as what you can do.
I think we're definitely at a stage now with underwaters where there are, you know, there's everyone's doing them, and we are at a stage where you're getting more and more people going, oh, it's another underwater, it's all the same, blah blah. I think that's so interesting. I think there's so much to learn. Like you said, every single situation is different, and even if you watch it and you don't put it all into your own angling, you're still building up. Watching
Knowledge
that
and
is building up
experience.
knowledge.
Yeah. And it's something we said in a previous podcast. You know, the more information and the more experience you've got, you can use that knowledge, that information, that experience on another situation where you think, oh, there's 2 or 3 reoccurring factors here. You draw back into your memory or you go into your logbook or whatever and you go, well, there's 3 factors in play of the 4 that day. So if I've got nothing else to go on, then let's use what I was using on that particular day because it's already giving you an advantage and an edge over than fishing it blind. But I think, you know, one thing that we'd like to do is do different stuff in the future. I think anybody who gets the opportunity to do underwater, I think, like Harry says, there is loads of them, but they are really interesting. But there's so much more that we'd like to do. Baiting situations, you know, even like Lewis has said, fishing chods. We always fish in a clear patch if it's in gravel or sand on an underwater to get the best clarity and to get them feeding on a spot. We don't fish in weed, we don't fish in sill, all that kind of thing, or clay because it muddies up, you can't see. But it would be nice to be able to do something
It would.
like that.
It would.
Like I think I'm pretty sure that that this one's the first one that's been done on like a boilie and pellet only water. I can't remember any others that have.
And to be fair, your second spot wasn't...
There's so many venues now that are boilie and pellet only. So there's there's definitely things to learn in how we baited.
And your second spot wasn't really clear because as soon as they fish come in, it mudded it up and it was hard to see.
Bit silt there, wasn't there? To be fair.
But
like I say, we never stop learning, do we? That's the beauty of it. So film is out now, guys. Go and watch it if you haven't already. It is a proper eye-opener.
You screwed it because you've watched all of this.
Dean got another shameless plug just to chuck in at the end here.
Yes.
I was asked to do a big in-depth interview with Carpology magazine recently.
Nice.
It's a three-parter because of the amount of bullshit that I talk.
Never a guess.
So yeah, massive, big, long interview. So if anybody would be as kind to support Carpology, because print needs all the support it can get to keep it going. I believe it's on sale now, part 1. So
there you go.
Yes,
go and have a read.
Yeah, check it out. Latest
Sounds
Carpology.
Good. Sounds good.
And if you enjoy it, Harry did the same interview 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, so, not the same interview.
No. His answers were definitely not the same answers as mine. But yeah, check those ones out.
I had
as well.
a 2-parter. Yeah, you can go back, go back on their website, I guess, and read them.
And big shout out to Samir, because I'm on the front cover with a photo that he took when I was in Spain. Legend.
Nice.
Thank you.
Oh, fair play, mate. Nice. Very nice.
This was the Lewis Porter podcast.
It was, yeah. I need some help with some competitions now, guys. We're going to do 2. The first one we're going to do, we'll get our normal podcast comp, but I've also got some names here for the social, which is happening at Merrington, which is the Syndicate Social. If you're a member, you could have entered. If you're not a member, you're missing out with Fishing with the Fox team. So the last 4 places are in this little bag here. So one of you would like to take one each from one of you, and they will be the last 4. Basically, we had Mozza do Fish of the Month, Guess the Weight while he was over at Rainbow. We've already had the first lot, and this is like the second lot. So everyone in here, I think it was £46 on the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's it. So everyone in this pot here guessed between 44 and 48. So I need 4 people.
So there are people on here that guessed 46 and they're not getting on?
Yeah, no, they've already had theirs draw.
So the ones who got it bang on, they're already in.
They're already done.
That was your wheel spinny.
Nobody got it on the money. The closest was 46.2.
Right.
And he got in. He was in part of the live draw and he got in.
Was that a fish that Mozza caught?
Yeah, the bow.
Nice. Oh,
right. Yeah, a little one.
I don't think
Sean wouldn't have brought that back to the bay.
He wouldn't have weighed that. I did it from the bait.
You wouldn't have got a £46 2 ounce.
Go on then.
You're a mid-40.
If you take one each, guys, and just read the name out, and these are the guys.
Oh, Moz. It'd be one of his kids. Watch it. Free food.
That's it. Cheers, guys. And if you can just read them out, and these are the guys who are joining us at Merrington on the 12th of June for a social.
Has anybody got one that's really difficult to pronounce?
Jason Palmer.
Okay.
There you go, Jace.
George Dell.
Well done, George.
Bethany Roberts. £47.5. Well, that's irrelevant. But Bethany Roberts.
I've got Richard Freeman.
Oh, Richard. Right. Oh, fair one. Nice.
Well done.
Nice.
Those guys and girls
who won a place.
Well done, everyone.
Do you remember Beanie S, who had the big comment?
I know Beanie Ray. Yes,
yeah,
Beanie
she is joining us.
She does a bit of bailiffing at East Elf Lake.
Oh, does she?
Yeah,
she on that one. She's joining us on the social.
You got 2 ladies on that one.
Yes, we have.
Nice.
Yeah. Well
Happy
done,
days.
Bethany. Awesome. Oh, make sure
there you go.
Don't mess them up, Dean. Fantastic. Well done to the guys joining us. That concludes the Merrington one, but there is another one, guys, happening at Toll Pits at the back end of July. So we'll be rolling out the comps to join us on those. Make sure you are a member of the syndicate. There's a link in the comments. The QR code is on your screen. If you zap that will take you to the page and you can join up, become a member. It takes 30 seconds and it costs absolutely nothing. In terms of the podcast competition this month, to get your hands on £100 worth of Fox goodies, in the comments, I would like to know what rig would you put out in the underwater film if you were in front of the cameras yourself? And also, after you've watched the film, let us know, was Lewis's rig off the swivel or off the hook in the comment as well? We want your comments as well.
Yeah, I mean, it might be because obviously
Chapter 21.
Obviously, that rig did. At what stage? Like,
Podcast's over now, Lou.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You might be able to scroll through. Yeah.
Guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Sorry, Lou. I love you, man.
That is months of you destroying it.